of the efforts of the Tax Reform Committee and the larger bodies like FIRS, LIRS, to name a few, have been to widen the tax net as opposed to deepening and increasing taxes. The Lagos state government had previously announced plans to generate 200 billion naira annually by expanding its income tax base to include freelancers and influencers. And best believe these celebrities have not been pleased, with several taking to social media to express their displeasure, from Joe and most recently Habib Hamzat, known professionally as Peller, a Nigerian online streamer and content creator. The young content creator and online streamer criticized the state government last week over what he described as excessive taxation. Let's take a listen.
They don't see you here, Peller. Come and pay tax. Guys, if they want to collect tax from my hand, I swear so much to God. No, how much person don't get? No person go to pay tax like this. That Nigerian living said, they are beg. Make I be on advertisements. Make I do advertisements for now. Make I collect tax from my hand. You, I beg you. Me, I just grow new. I guess a lot of family where they give money. I beg. The tax won't be much. Who that say the tax will not go be much? I swear so much God do. My manager tell me say that say make I come pay tax for 18 million naira. 18 million. Tax. Kilo de. Ọlọ́run. Like I know mo ti pa. I know they. 36 million.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see the responses there, especially from the professionals. To answer some of the pressing questions around taxation of influencers and freelancers, we have tax partner at Deloitte, Nigeria, Yomi Olugbenro, and entertainment lawyer, Tope Salami. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you. Good morning. Good to be with you.
Pleasure. Let's begin with you, Mr. Yomi, and with the first question, one of the questions Peller was seen asking in that video: how much am I earning that I'm being billed 36 million as tax? So in the entertainment and influencer sphere, who is liable to pay tax, and how much must they be earning? Do the same rules apply?
Well, yeah, so the same rule that applies to everyone that is earning income from any business, profession, or vocation. It's the same rule that applies to everybody. So whatever amounts of income you earn, it's subjected to, the standard tax rule. You get your allowances like every other person, and you put the balance to tax using the tax table. And I mean, I don't know how much he earns, but if he says, for example, he's been asked to pay 36 million naira, if I do a rough effective tax rate calculation of, say, somebody who could be 18% effective tax rate, that's the band I will expect that income level to be. 18% effective tax rate, if you use that to gross up 36 million, means they have assumed that he earns 200 million naira in a year. 200 million naira in a year is roughly $130,000 US. So I don't know how much exactly he earns, and it will appear as though he hasn't actually filed his own income tax return voluntarily. So maybe the revenue authorities made a best judgment based on what they think is available. But at the end of the day, what is required is really for him to come forward with whatever he has earned, because the fact that he's an entertainer or influencer doesn't provide a separate exemption. Everyone pay tax based on the earnings they make.
Right. I will get into the procedures around that. We know he was on national television saying, I make so amount of money, and that is what ignited the bill that was sent to him. And I'm staying with you before I come to Tope. We know that entertainment, freelancer space is a lot more deregulated than the regular employment, right? Income is inconsistent, it's irregular, they have varying sources. So how does the math differ, and how much of a difference, does this make? How do they go about, this calculation?
Well, it doesn't differ substantially, but I think they even have an advantage, because if you're in a paid employment on a monthly basis, because you have a fixed amount and you have a known employer, that employer takes over the administrative burden of, deducting whatever amount of tax that's supposed to be payable on what you are being paid every month, and he pays that to the revenue authority, and you wait until the end of the year when you then, do a compilation of other sources of income together with your employment income and just pay the balance, or essentially just declare to the revenue authority that your employer have done all that they needed to do. In the case of those who are, the entertainers, with particular reference to entertainers, all they need to do is at the end of the year, so they can actually do self-assessment return once in a year. At the end of the year, they aggregate their income together from all sources, and they subject it to the standard tax rule. The tax laws are quite clear as to what exemption anyone will be eligible for and what the rate of tax that's supposed to be applied to your income. It's quite a pretty straightforward process. But for those who are not finance people, they typically could approach the revenue authority or get a tax advisor to assist them in doing the computation. So they would do it once at the end of the year, unlike those in paid employment who have fixed monthly income and for which a monthly PAY is applicable.
And from what you're saying, it's better you go to them than they come to you.
No, absolutely, because when you go to them, you have record of your income. You have a record of what you've earned, irrespective of what claim you make on social media and all of that. The tax authority will not typically use that unless they're using best of judgment. So if you haven't come through, they then look at your lifestyle, and then they can make a best of judgment assessment on you. But even as at that doesn't still end it. The fact that a best of judgment assessment has been raised on you doesn't mean that's where it ends finally. All that you need to do is to then come forward with your record. You have your bank statement, you have source of income, and then you can easily defend that with the revenue authority. And any revenue authority, whether state or federal, all that they need to do is your record. Once they see the details, they will definitely discharge a BOJ assessment and subject you to tax based on your actual.
And I'm coming to you now, Tope, considering you'll probably be the one speaking for the entertainers and influencers now, considering you're an entertainment lawyer. We're seeing some sort of pushback, right, somewhat, some sort of resistance to taxation from these celebrities online. They're coming out to say that it's excessive. How much am I earning? It's overtaxed. Why do you think we're seeing this pushback?
So I think basically we're having this pushback because the taxation education in the Nigerian creative space is really at its lowest ebb, meaning that we need to educate our entertainers, our creatives, more on taxation, the reason to pay tax, the advantages of, taxation payments and otherwise. Also, our government needs to be more intelligent. Our government needs to employ more intelligent, means, in getting things done. This is a growing economy. This is a growing sector, yeah? And as one of my clients would say, it is the newest crude oil, in Nigeria. If the creative sector is the newest crude oil in Nigeria, then everyone, from the lawmakers to the creatives to the government, to even, the establishment empowered, to collect, and determine, what, creatives pay. Everyone needs to put on their thinking cap. Everyone needs to be very intelligent in, in attacking the issues of taxation when it comes to a very sensitive industry like the creative industry. So trust me, there would always be a pushback because most of our creatives, are really not educated about taxation, yeah? Sadly, their team as well, might not be educated, on how this, issue of taxation works. And aside from their team not being educated, we are in a country where the creative industry largely, I'm not saying the creative industry in Lagos alone, the creative industry largely for over a very long period of time has not been enjoying the patronage of government. The creative industry has not really been enjoying the proper support from the government, and we have this normal Nigerian mentality, which will be, oh, why am I paying tax? Oh, why do I need to do this? What is the government doing for me? I will also use this opportunity to also say aside from, having proper education on how the issue of taxation works, we also need different relief, from the government. Most of us have, we've operated businesses all around the world. I mean, we've done several things, and we see the ease of doing businesses all around the world, yeah? But it is the opposite in our own country. It is the opposite because the people who actually know how these things work, they are not, put in the right position, yeah? Meaning that if you want to do something with creative, if you want to say something to creatives, there are ways. There are people who understand the creative languages. If you don't get these people, it would be very hard, for you guys to get it done.
So from what you're saying...
I mean, our Nigerian creatives, when they go abroad, they pay tax. Funny enough. Like, they pay tax.
All right, and I think I'll get Mr. Yomi to respond to that in just a moment. Sensitization and in their language, in the language of the celebrities and the influencers, and support from the government. But I'm staying with you, Tope, briefly. We know that influencers and celebrities, they tend to inflate their lifestyle and their earnings online. Do you see, an awareness that tax authorities are watching? Do you see that informing a shift in that regard?
That is why they call it showbiz. It is, you have to show it before you do the business, yeah? And that's the same reason why I said we need people who understand the way the creative industry works and the way taxation also works, to come hand in hand to get this done. So if I come online as a creative and I say, oh, I'm earning $1 billion every month, the creative industry, the taxation body needs not be moved by that. They only need to be moved by what? By my record. Because anybody can see anything. Right. And so far, we have, let's say, okay, Federal Land Revenue Service or maybe any other body now, yeah? We have the creative/entertainment department. And the people in this department are people who understand how these things work, yeah? Because I know that it is showbiz, yeah? It is showbiz. I need to show. I need to do the showing first. If I don't do the showing, my next client will not pay me well. And that is when I can do the business well, when I show. Then no tax authority should be moved by whatever any creative says. You can only be moved. You can only do your determination. You can only do your assessment by the records or by what you feel this person is earning. And it is not even all income. It is not all money entering one's account that you can even say you want to tax.
All right. So from what you're saying, that a celebrity comes out on social media or national television to say, I'm earning such an amount, that's not the amount that the tax authority should use to bill that particular influencer. I'm going to come to Mr. Yomi to react to some of the things, Tope has said. Will the government why would the government take money from me when they are not giving me anything? So there's been talks about, they don't support the industry, there's no sensitization, so why are they so heavily taxed? What do you have to say in regards to that? And as well, the last submission that Tope made, saying that it's show business, what they say they earn online is not necessarily what the tax authorities should work with.
Well, that's quite an important point there. So what's the government doing for me? The government doesn't support me. The government wants to take tax from me. Trust me, as someone who consult for businesses and high net worth individuals and all of that, I can tell you that that phrase is not peculiar to entertainers and influencers and those in the creative space. Generally, in the country, there is a demand for greater level of service delivery from the government, and everyone is legitimately empowered to make that demand. But what is not sufficient is to use that claim as a basis for them not, doing the right thing, evading taxes. So every citizen is authorized to hold his leaders accountable, to demand for service. to demand for accountability and I mean demand for ease of doing businesses, and all of that. But you cannot use that as your legitimate reason for not paying taxes. And so you can, and I mean, if you define tax itself, tax is not a voluntary donation to the government, and it's not necessarily a payment for service. Tax is a compulsory levy. It's compulsory imposition on government, and in many cases, it has no bearing with the amount of service you are enjoying. Government use that proceed to provide public goods, to provide social amenities, and depending on how much of that you are able to access or you're able to consume, it's expected to go around ultimately, but it has no direct bearing, to your taxes. And so, payment, I mean, discharging your civic obligation, it's sacrosanct. It's a constitutional responsibility. So the same way that you will demand that the government look after your security, look after your health, is the same way that the Constitution imposes the obligation for every citizen that earns, have a legitimate source of earnings to also, willingly and faithfully discharge his tax obligation. But I agree with him. I mean, he's very right with the fact that this is show business. Right? There must be the showing before the business. The Revenue Authority do not necessarily just use the public claim, those bogus claims that you see everywhere as a basis for taxation. They only revert to it as last resort. What the Revenue Authority need is your record. And you don't even need to wait for an assessment to be raised by Revenue Authority. What the law requires is voluntary disclosure. You are supposed to file your tax return based and then pay the amount of tax that you believe is due based on your income. That's what you're supposed to do. And the Revenue Authority could do a check, they could do a review, they could do an audit, they could do a validation of those numbers, but you are the one that the law actually give the obligation to make sure that you file your tax return. Now, when you don't do that, and the Revenue Authority writes you refuse to do, then the law then empowers the Revenue Authority to make a best of judgment assessment on you. So that best of judgment assessment on you is essentially like sniffing you out of your holes. So if you're supposed to be paying 20 million, it's not out of place, it's not impossible for you to receive an assessment for 50 million naira. Now, that is a call to action by the Revenue Authority to say, you haven't filed your return, we have written to you, we have made a request, you haven't done the right thing. Then based on what we could see, your lifestyle, the profile, your comparable, maybe someone else that is within your particular sector or industry is also filing tax returns, and we believe that your income is of a comparable size, and therefore we are making a best of judgment. That's why it's called best of judgment. It's an estimate at best. So you then receive that assessment, you then go back. You have, you still have your right within the law to respond to a best of judgment assessment and provide your own counter documentation to say, no, it's not a 36 million, no, it's not a 50 million, this is how much I have earned, provided you are able to support with documents. Trust me, the fact that you just make a public noise about how much you earn and you inflate your number should not necessarily be the determinant of what your final tax obligation will be. It is when you refuse to do the right thing that then become the only option that the revenue authorities have at its disposal.
Obviously, there needs to be a lot more sensitization. And Tope Salami as well. Thank you so much for your time and your perspective on this conversation. I'm sure this conversation will continue, and hopefully we see that much needed sensitization. Yomi Olugbenro, partner and West African tax leader at Deloitte, and Tope Salami, entertainment lawyer and entrepreneur. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.